Gaze up at the quiet dark heavens above the desert. In just a few beats of your heart, that peaceful canvas is going to erupt into a sprawling inferno. 52 deadly trails of fire have just pierced the horizon from the other side of the Persian Gulf. The leadership in Tehran has just made a move that history books will record as the ultimate fatal mistake. They have unleashed a massive wave of ballistic and cruise weapons aiming directly at the most vital American military hub in the Middle East. The commanders in Iran are cheering right now. They actually think they have just pulled off a modern-day Pearl Harbor. Their grand vision is 15,000 American knives long, and fleets of F-22 Raptors and the two Spirit stealth bombers turned into burning clouds of weapons. They are throwing everything they have at the wall, assuming no shield on earth could possibly stop them. But there is a harsh reality their overwhelming pride has hidden from them. The exact instant their very first weapon left the launch pad, the clock started ticking on its absolute destruction of their entire military mission. America does not flinch. America does not bargain. While those warheads are still sailing through the dark, the unblinking eye of the United States Space Force is better than ever. It takes exactly 4 seconds. 4 seconds for a death sentence to become official. What you are about to see is far from even reach. It is a clinical, cold-blooded experiment. An exhibition of force so savage and absolute that it would chill the blood of any enemy. 48 minutes. That is all it takes to wipe the greatest achievement of Tehran off the map. 1,250 American smart weapons going up against 50 of this total, irreversible blow. Operation Steel Record, the place where the world learns exactly what happens when you awaken the full fury of the American man. Keep your eyes peeled, because this is the anatomy of how an empire of weapons is turned to dust. Do me a quick favor and drop the name of your home country down in the comments. Alright, let us jump in. Picture the map of the Persian Gulf spot. Al Dhafra Air Base. Just 32 miles outside of Abu Dhabi, this place is not just a base. It is a heavily guarded fortress, the living, breathing heart of American muscle in that part of the world. It houses over 15,000 troops and acts as the home turf for the 380th Air Expeditionary Wing. We are talking about the absolute apex predators of the sky. 3 dozen F-22 Raptor air superiority jets situated, time to rip apart anything that flies. Right next to them are the MQ-9 Reaper drones, the silent stalkers of the night, and the occasional B-2 Spirit stealth bomber dropping by just to remind everyone who owns the sky from 50,000 feet. For the generals in Tehran, Al Dhafra was a massive thorn they desperately wanted to pull. So, at 2 in the morning on that June day, the Iranian Supreme National Security Council held a desperate meeting to find out data. Back into a point, the question of the ancient thought, and the terrifying shadow of the United States they ordered an all-out saturation strike on Al Dhafra under the Pope. They did not they wanted to see the crown jewels of the United States Air Force transformed into a tech graveyard. The elite commanders of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps honestly believed they were about to shock the American public so badly that the military would pack up and leave the region forever. What an incredibly foolish dream. By 3:15 in the morning, 8 major launch sites spread across Iran started waking up like hungry wolves. At the Tabriz installation, 10 massive Sejal-2 ballistic rockets pointed straight at the stars. Down at the Bakhtaran complex, 12 Shahab 3B weapons warmed up their engines. Isfahan brought 8 low-flying Somar cruise weapons to the party. Shiraz readied 10 gigantic Khorramshahr 2 rockets. And over at the Sharad Space Center, a dozen highly advanced Khyber-Shikan rockets were primed to fly. 52 warheads in total. It was a clever blend of high-flying ballistic rockets and low-sneaking cruise weapons, mixing up speeds and flight paths to confuse the defenders. Tehran figured if they threw everything at once from every direction, the American computer systems would overload and crash, letting the fire rain down on the troops. At 3:40 in the morning, Just a handful of minutes before the launch, the Iranian aerospace chief stared at his monitors and proudly bragged that they were about to rewrite global history. He swore the Americans would suffer losses they had not experienced since the Second World War. He genuinely thought he held all the aces. He forgot that America owns the casino. Put yourself in the shoes of an Iranian launch officer. You just slammed that red button. You watch in glory as thousands of pounds of explosive steel rip into the dark sky. You think you just knocked out the heavyweight champ. What you do not realize is that the fraction of a second that exhaust flame shot out of your Sejal 2 rocket, you lost control of your own destiny. At exactly 45 minutes and 1 second past 3 in the morning, orbiting high above the planet, the infrared sensors of the United States Space Force did not miss a beat. Those orbital eyes did not ask permission. Within 4 tiny seconds, the heat signatures on screens in Colorado and Maryland were flagged as a massive coordinated strike. The leaders in Tehran thought they were pulling off a stealthy ambush, but they were actually dancing under the brightest stadium lights on Earth. Smart algorithms instantly chewed through the flight paths, speeds, and landing zones. The terrifying truth flashed across American monitors in the blink of an eye. Target Al-Dafra. Incoming count 52. The ambush was ruined before the 5th second ticked by. The counterattack was already being drawn up while Iranian troops were still hugging and celebrating. Down on the ground at Al-Dafra, the quiet night was completely shattered by the most terrifying noise a soldier can ever hear. The base alarm started screaming, and everyone knew this was not a practice run. The sleeping giant was wide awake. Voices blasted over the speakers warning of incoming ballistic threats and ordering every single person into the reinforced bunkers. 15,000 men and women, from the elite fighter pilots to the cooks, had mere minutes to outrun the Grim Reaper.
I think it's going really well. I think we're ahead of schedule.
But they did not freak out the way Iran hoped they would.
Things out of the park. I think
they moved with icy precision, a rhythm built on countless hours of grueling drills.
Pretty phenomenal. Working with us,
aircraft worth billions of dollars were shoved into concrete vaults so thick they could survive almost anything. Heavy steel doors slammed shut underground. But make no mistake, the American military does not just cower in the dark. While the people took shelter, the mechanical beasts protecting Al-Dafra came alive. Patriot launchers, THAAD batteries, and C-RAM defense guns started spinning, locking their mechanical eyes on the deadly specks diving from the edge of space at unbelievable speeds. Here is the fatal flaw in the plan. Tehran was attacking with technology born in the Cold War, while America was fighting back with a defense web tied to outer space. Massive supercomputers ran millions of math problems every second, matching the perfect bullet to every incoming threat. This was not a traditional battle. It was a hyper-advanced math equation, and the answer was always going to be absolute failure for the attackers. Soon after, the air above the United Arab Emirates started rumbling. Not from Iranian bombs, but from a swarm of defensive rockets screaming off their pads and painting bright white lines across the black sky. Tehran played its heaviest hitters, completely unaware they were flying into an unbreakable wall of American steel guided from orbit. Take a breath, because the next few moments look like a science fiction movie, but it is pure, ruthless engineering. The sky over Al-Dafra turned into a giant meat grinder. The first shield to engage was the THAAD system. This is where American engineering gets downright insulting to the enemy. THAAD does not even use explosive warheads. It destroys threats by slamming right into them at the very edge of space using nothing but raw speed and perfect aim. Those 10 massive Khorramshahr 2 rockets, the ones Iran boasted could wipe out cities, were diving at 14 times the speed of sound. But the American radar systems had them totally trapped from thousands of miles away. Defensive rockets shot into the freezing void of space and smashed the incoming threats head-on, turning them into a fine mist 150 kilometers above the earth. It was a total embarrassment for the Iranian weapons program. As the surviving rockets like the Sejal 2 dropped into the lower atmosphere, the Patriot PAC-3 almost named its joining each other. These things are built for one-shot kills. 32 Patriot rockets carved deadly paths into the air. The Iranian Shahab-3B rockets twisted and turned, hoping for a lucky break, but American radar gripped them so tight they could not breathe. One after another, the finest weapons of Tehran were blasted into rainy scrap metal before they even got a good look at their target. And we cannot forget the sneaky Somar Crew's weapons trying to hug the dirt and dodge the radar. What a sad attempt. Hovering high above, the ghost-like F-22 Raptors were already waiting for them. Using their hyper-advanced radars and AIM-120B rockets, the American pilots were basically doing routine target practice. Every single Somar was swatted out of the air over the water, their flaming pieces sinking into the Persian Gulf right alongside the grand ambitions of their creators. The final handful of warheads slipped into the close-range zone, and that is when the C-RAM phalanx guns started rolling. Picture a chainsaw made of bullets. 4 of these machines spit out 4,500 rounds of 20mm lead every single minute, building an impenetrable wall of metal. It was an absolute execution by overwhelming firepower. 52 rockets went up, and 49 returned to dust. The only damage was a burning fuel tank, 2 scratched-up cargo plants, and 15 lightly injured service members. Not a single American life was lost. Tehran wanted a world-changing bloodbath, and all they got was a spectacularly expensive lesson in high-tech math. Those 52 weapons were like angry mosquitoes trying to bite a heavily armored bear. As the American troops brushed the dirt off their uniforms, the real nightmare began for Iran. The United States military has one unbreakable rule. If you take a swing at the champ, you do not get to walk away. While Patriot rockets were still chewing up the last of the Iranian strike, Central Command officially signed the death warrant for the entire missile network of Tehran. America does not wait around to counter strategies. They do not wait for politicians to talk it out. The second the radar proved where the attack came from, Operation Steel Requiem was ahead. This was not an eye for an eye. This was a surgical removal of the ability of Iran to ever fight back again, performed wide awake with no painkillers. 100 miles out in the ocean, the massive aircraft carrier USS Gerald R. Ford got the green light. The message was short and terrifying. Retaliate immediately. Wipe out every launch site and weapons facility. Weapons free. The deck of that ship instantly became a chaotic symphony of power. The magnetic catapults slammed into overdrive, hurling 60 F-A-18E Super Hornets and F-35C Lightning IIs into the dark. Every jet was packed with 4 JSOW glide bombs, 2 HARM anti-radar rockets, and extra missiles just in case. That is nearly 300 pieces of smart flying death just from the Super Hornets. Enough to erase a city. And that was only the warm-up act. Back at Al-Dhafra, with the smoke still hanging in the air, 16 F-35A stealth jets took off into the night carrying Stormbreaker smart bombs, ready to hunt down moving targets from miles away with flawless precision. But the darkest shadow falling over Tehran came from the horizon. For B-1B Lancer bombers, those supersonic beasts of the sky, got their coordinates while cruising over the Arabian Sea. Loaded with 96 JASSM-ER stealth rockets, each bomber was a flying apocalypse capable of wiping out 24 targets at once without ever letting the enemy see them coming. Meanwhile, hiding in the freezing depths of the Persian Gulf, 8 Virginia-class nuclear submarines opened their hatches. 160 Tomahawk cruise rockets shot out of the water, leaving bright trails of smoke as they sprinted for the Iranian shoreline. Just look at the difference in power. Iran tossed 52 rockets and prayed for a miracle. America clapped back with a tidal wave of over 1,250 perfectly guided weapons. America does not shoot just to make a point. They shoot so the enemy physically cannot ever shoot back. By acting so tough, Tehran signed its own ending. Before the first bomb even hit the dirt, the United States military completely paralyzed the brain of Iran. This is where the dark magic of electronic warfare takes over. At 4 a.m, while Iranian commanders were still sweating over why all their missiles vanished from the screens, the lights went out on their entire radar grid. 12 EA-18G Growler jets, the absolute masters of electronic chaos, rushed the coast. Instantly, every Iranian radar screen turned to fuzzy white static. Their proud S-300 defense systems, the ones they bragged could shoot down stealth planes, turned into heavy paperweights sitting in the desert. It was a complete technological
Inside the
humiliation.
bubble here,
Iranian
I can hear
generals
things, and
screamed
that's probably
into their
the greatest
radios,
advantage of being
but
in
nobody
here.
could
On the
hear
flight
them.
deck, I am
They were
kinda
totally blind
just
and
in my own
completely
world.
helpless
I only
against
have a
the
radio,
incoming storm.
so I
Right
can't
behind the
hear
jamming
or
wave came the harm
understand
rockets.
anything that might be going on downstairs.
128
So,
of them. They do not
up
need
top,
someone to
I'm
steer
running
them.
around constantly.
They just sniff out the
asking
radar
for
signals
information
and
trying to
chase them
feed it
down
up
like
to
hungry
airboss,
dogs.
the handler, to the flight deck
In under
team,
2 minutes,
just so everyone can
every
be on the
early
same page and
warning
we can
dish
make
in
the
a
right
300-kilometer
decision at that time
circle
in
was
case
blown
something
to pieces.
not going the way we
The
planned.
doors
So,
to the Iranian sky
in the
were
bubble,
kicked wide
a
open.
lot more information
Their
is being
military
able to
was
be
essentially
fed to
brain
me,
dead before the
quicker,
real
and I
explosive
can get that
rain even
information out
started
sooner
falling.
as well.
Having stripped away their ability to see or fight back, the Americans
I'm from
brought
Perry,
out the
Georgia,
heavy
and I'm currently
hammers.
stationed aboard the
12
USS
B-2
Nemesis.
Spirit bombers slipped deep into
So
the
when
heart
we're
of
shooting
Iran.
airborne
They did
aircraft
not
carrier,
even need
we
the
have
night
two
to
primary
hide.
areas we can shoot
Their
from
stealth
the waist,
makes them
which is
practically
here, our
invisible.
catapults 3 and 4, as
Their
well as the
targets
bow,
were the massive
which is our
factories in
catapults 1
Isfahan
and
and
2.
Parcha,
Basically, the
the
coordination
places
piece
where
there, right?
Tehran
Cats
poured
3 and
billions to
4
build
here in
their
the waist
weapons
also
empire.
serves as the landing area
Under the
for all the
gaze of
aircraft.
120
So,
Stormbreaker
the
and
catapults
Jassim
here
Yar
require a
rockets,
little bit more
all those expensive
efficiency in order
assembly
to clear
lines
the
were
LA
turned
so
into
that aircraft
smoking
can begin
craters.
to land.
America
Typically, we'll
did
start
not
with
just
the
break
waist
their
as the
toys.
priority,
They
and
broke
shoot
the
as many
toy
as we
factory.
can before the next wave
It will
of
take them
aircraft come in
decades to
land,
build another
and the
rocket.
bow will be shooting as
The
well.
grand finale arrived with a massive
We have a couple
B-52H
primary ways that we
Stratofortress
shoot.
bombers.
We have case
They
1 and
dropped
case 2 as
384
well as
GPS-guided
case
bombs
3.
onto 12 air bases
When
and
weather's
10
great,
oil
we call it
refineries
case 1.
that fed the military
That's just a
machine.
nice sunny day.
The explosions
As far
were
as
so
interval,
gigantic
right,
that
so we still
earthquake
have
sensors
some
felt the
things we need to
ground
work
shaking
between
at
the waist cats
4.5
and bow cats.
magnitude.
For the most part,
This
we
was
can
a
pretty much
total
shoot freely
systematic
with a few
deletion of an
exceptions.
entire
During case
military
1, so
branch.
there's no
Let
coordination
us look at the
required
final
between the
scoreboard
bow and
because
the
it is
waist.
genuinely
We just
brutal.
shoot them as we get them,
52
and it's pretty
Iranian
much the
weapons
fastest
traded
method
for
that we can shoot.
1,250 American smart bombs.
As the weather
3,500
gets
Iranian
worse, or
troops
we go to
gone,
night
compared to
operations,
0
we'll
American
go to case 2 or
fatalities.
we'll go to case 3,
20
which is going to
major
be our most
bases and
restrictive
55
shooting.
support sites completely
So we'll
wiped
usually
off
go
the
off,
map.
we'll let the waist go
An
first,
entire
they'll let us
weapons
know when they're
program that
final
took a
ready,
lifetime to
and at
build
that
was
point we'll hook
vaporized
the
in under an
aircraft and
hour.
start the evolution on the bow.
48 minutes.
And we'll call each other's
That is
final
all
readies
it
as we
took
go,
from the first
and that
Iranian
naturally
launch
has
to
about
the
a
final
30-second
American explosion.
interval between
You
us,
could watch a
and
single
that allows
episode
us
of
to
a
keep
television
safe,
show at a
during an
time
otherwise,
to completely
potentially
dismantle a
unsafe
nation
situation.
and its greatest military
That case
achievement.
3, the
Operation
bow
Steel
and waist
Requiem
has to
proved
work
that the
together a
gap
lot more
between a
closely.
noisy regional
When we're in
power
the
and a
catapult
true
bow
global
bubble
titan is
or the
not
waist
measured in
bubble,
miles,
we
but
have a
in
lot more
codes,
means of
hard
communication
technology,
between our
and the
sound
sheer
powered
willpower
phones as
to
well as an
destroy.
actual hardline
Those
telephone.
52 rockets were the most expensive mistake in the history of warfare.
In my opinion, the best job on the
Tehran
ship
asked for a
because
modern Pearl
you get to be
Harbor,
a part of
and all they
such
got was
a
a swift and
dynamic
fiery eviction
team
notice.
of many departments
They
and
learned the
divisions,
hardest way
coming
possible
together
that when
on
the
ship
American hammer
to
swings,
launch and
it
recover
swings until
aircraft.
there
It's
is
amazing to see its
absolutely
basically
nothing
apart.
left to
So,
hit.
from the
48
bridge to the
minutes
tower
to
to
erase
flight
a legacy.
control, the hangar
48
bay,
minutes to remind the
on the
planet
flight deck,
who actually
air wing,
runs the show.
multiple
I
divisions
leave you to wonder if any
everyone
nation on
doing
Earth
their
would
part
ever be foolish
and
enough to
doing
wake
well
that
and
sleeping
safely.
giant again.
And
Or if those
for me to
smoldering
be a part
ruins
of
will
that
stand forever as a quiet monument to the
kind of
lethal cost of
experience,
pride.
the team